Good, Tato. I think we might make a start, councillors. And it's my pleasure to welcome you along to this extraordinary meeting of council. We have two items on the agenda, but before we begin, I'll just call for any apologies. And we have three that I'm aware of. We have Councillor Bolger, Councillor Dixon, and also Councillor Grant. Would somebody like to move that those apologies be sustained, please? Councillor McDonnell, seconded Councillor Phillips. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, the motion is carried. So moving on to our first item on the agenda, the adoption of our 2021 to 31 long-term plan, a significant piece of work that has taken a long time to work through with the auditors particularly, and get to a result that we have. So we have a memo before us from the Chief Financial Officer, and I'm just going to ask Lene if you'd like to make some comments to this before I open it for discussion with Council.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through Your Worship. Yes, the long-term plan has been quite an intensive process this year, and we are pleased to be at this point where we can look to adopt. The key points I'd like to raise are around the changes from the consultation document, those being the grants that the council has agreed upon with regards to Active Southland, the $25,000 for the reserves budget or parks and reserves for the mountain bike track, the inclusion of $20,000 towards cultural training and tikanga, and that's been spread over 2 years. There's been a couple of other wee minor things that have happened through that time as well, and between the consultation document and today, Waka Kotahi announced their proposed funding for the next 3 years, and that resulted in a decrease in funding for Gore District Council. Because it was significant, we had to reforecast our numbers, and this has had an impact on the resulting rates increase. There's a couple of other wee things that popped up, and we looked at the funding for district plan, and district plan in the initial consultation document, we had it funded out of rates increases rather than actually loan funded over a number of years. District plan has benefits to the community over a number of years, and therefore in consistency with past practice, we have now loan funded, which has again helped decrease the rates increase. And the third thing was around the Otama water scheme. Some information was provided late in the piece that wasn't previously available to me, and we worked through, and we've now got a combination of funding between rates for use or user pays and also out of reserves. So the combined effort of those three items have resulted in an average of 6.42% increase for the district, which is a lot more palatable than our 8.22 we'd initially hoped for. The other item that we should highlight at this point is also the unbalanced budget. So in 2 of our 10 years, we have what is called an unbalanced budget. Now, what this is where we don't raise enough income to cover all of our expenses. This was a conscious decision. It's not out by much. It's out by about $300,000 1 year and $125,000 or $180,000 the second year. This is a conscious decision because we were putting a 6.42% increase in our first year. We didn't want those subsequent 2 years to also be above 5% and breach our cap. So we are confident that in the movements within projects and timing of expenses that this will be absorbed anyway, but we do have to accept that adopt that there's going to be approved an unbalanced budget. I'm happy to take further questions.
Well, thank you, Lene, and I'll open it up for discussion shortly, but I just want to say thank you for the time and the effort that you and your team have put into getting us to this point. In my time as Mayor, it's probably the rate-setting long-term plan process that has been one of the most challenging, and it's been back and forth a number of times, and to get it to the point we are now, I find is really pleasing from your perspective and also from ours. And while it is 6.42 is above where we had predicted it, it is certainly quite a bit lower than the 8.22 that we were looking at 2 or 3 weeks ago. So thank you for that. Mr. Chief Executive, do you want to make any comment before we open that to councillors?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. I just endorse your comments and the Lornay's comments that she's eloquently put forward to you about the final result. I think it needs to be put in perspective too that you can't underestimate the effect that the floods followed by COVID-19 and the lockdown took in terms of our planning time. That really did erode into it, and so we were always on the back foot a little bit. That coupled with and Lornay's introduction to the organisation in June, and then you have the very exacting audit process that was used this year, has certainly ramped up the time required to actually deliver a completed plan. So we'll certainly reflect on that when we have our usual post-mortem review. But I think the council can be satisfied that when you calculate both the proposed rate increase this year on top of the 2.84% of last year, you are still comfortably under the 10% threshold you've set by 5% caps year on year. So given the environment we're working within, I would submit to you that's a pretty comforting place to be, given that we had some fairly stiff challenges facing us over the last few months. So all in all, Your Worship, lessons to be learned. Relieved that we've now got to this point, as Paul McCartney sang, it's a long and winding road that leads us to your door. We're now at your door, and hopefully you can open it and then we can walk through and look at an environment post-2021 LTP adoption.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, councillors, open for your comment and or adoption. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate thanks to Lornay for all the hard work. I'm assuming that the 6.42 is also including that 1% that we were instructed to do by the auditors.
Correct, through Your Worship. That is correct. Inflation has been included in our first year and across all 10 years of our plan in line with the auditor's direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any other comment? Councillor Davis? Thank you. So you're moving both recommendations? Right, thank you. So we've got a mover. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor McPhail, thank you. Any further discussion on the plan? Councillor Grant?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one thing I thought that could be added if possible. If everyone else has agreement, I'm just on page 6 for the council for you. You have a photograph of the councillors with no names. There are three brand new councillors this term. Councillors McDowell, Councillor Grant and Councillor McPhail, and some people may not know them, so I was just wondering if it would be applicable to put names on that page.
Yeah, look, I think that's something that we'll take on board. I'm not sure. I think that possibly was an oversight somewhere along the line, but we'll take that on board. Okay, any other comment? Councillor McDonnell?
Just one comment about borrowing the money for the district plan. We should pay that off over a short period because the plan only lasts, 5 to 10 years, so it shouldn't be a 20-year loan.
So can I ask you to comment on that, Lornay? What's the plan there?
Through Your Worship, the plan is to have it paid off over 10 years. It's in the model to be paid off over 10 years.
Okay. Right, any other comment, question? If not, we have a motion before us, which I'm going to put. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. So following on from that decision, we need to move a rates resolution and a fairly long series of recommendations that need to be taken into account here. So, Lornay, do you want to make any comment on this? I think it's reasonably self-explanatory, but is there anything that needs to be explained at this point in time? We'll go for questions.
I'm happy just to go for questions and take it as read.
Okay, councillors, it's open for discussion and or question and or recommendation. Hopefully everybody's had time. Councillor Davis? Thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Highstead, thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, the motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Well, that's probably one of our more important meetings we've had in the last 3 years, and probably one of the shortest, I'd have to say. So, but behind that short meeting goes an awful lot of work and time and effort and blood, sweat and tears, to be honest, to get us to this point. So congratulations once again to the team that have put this together, and congratulations to the council for the input along the way. And with that, there's no further business on the agenda that I'm aware of, so I'll declare the meeting closed and thank you for your attendance.